One of my absolute favorite fights coming up this weekend, we have Joe Rogan's new favorite fighter, Uros Medic, taking on the Tarantula Jalin Turner. Matt, do you know why they call him the Tarantula?
Because he's like 6'3" and all legs and arms?
Because he has over 200 spiders. And for Jalin Turner, this guy has been so tricky so far in the UFC. He debuted almost 3 years ago against Vicente Luque. Now, obviously, he loses that fight, but then he comes back to beat Callum Potter, lose to Matt Frevola, beat Joshua Culibao and Brock Weaver. Both of those wins a by finish. So a little bit of hype following a guy who's trained at some very big gyms in his own right with Ruka Sport, as well as Carlson, Gracie, Riverside, and I mixed mash and Riverside, Carlson, Gracie. It all encompasses the fact that he is a very well sought after prospect. The guy has range, he has length, and if it was a ZZ Top song, yeah, he'd probably have legs because he is a very long and rangy guy for this division. He is taking on Serbia's and Alaska's own uber prospect, Uros Medic. This guy, again, Joe Rogan was talking about him, so he had to be something special. We had a great feature ahead of his debut against Alon Cruz's last time out. Let's throw it on over to the 15-minute card breaks rookie review for Uros Medic. We have Serbia's own Uros Medic taking on Alon Cruz. And listen, I'm sure there's people out there from Serbia that are absolutely going to butcher me on the name pronunciation. I went back and watched all of Uros's fights. Very interesting stuff. So he comes at us from Alaska FC. He had his first 5 fights over there. He debuted at middleweight, had 4 fights at welterweight, and then his last fight over on Contender Series at 155 pounds. He comes into this one at lightweight as well. Every single win's been pretty well a knockout, and that's the thing. I mean, the guy gets it done in a lot of different ways. He's one of those fighters that has a very long stance, and you'll see that. He's going to be one of the bigger lightweights you're ever going to see out there. For Uros Medic, the trouble for me is he comes into this fight and you look at the level of competition that he had with Alaska FC. I've compared Alaska FC to a lot of different things. They're kind of like the WLF wars of, well, that one state that's super north and super west of all the other ones, because you had no idea what you're going to get. WLF wars, who have we gotten out of there? Well, you've had what? Song Yadong that's on this card. And then you've had other fighters that have been just absolutely hot garbage. Like, it's really hard to tell. Level of competition's not all that great. For Uros Medic, if you want to see a really fun fight and some of the dynamic movements that he can do, go back and watch the fight against Alonzo, and this is a tough last name, but Alonzo Leesholm Jr. And he does a crazy Granby roll in that one, but overall, he outmatched his competition big time when he was on the regional scene. And then if you look at his last fight against Mikey Gonzalez was kind of small for the fight, and he moved up a weight class, so they had said on the broadcast. He was a karate guy, so he's spinning a lot of, spinning kicks and missing on them and getting tired, and it just looked like a total mismatch of a fight to me.
For Uros Medic, I think this is going to be an interesting fight for him, and I think this isn't a setup fight for him, but I do think the UFC is more invested in the future of Medic than they are the future of Alon Cruz. And here's the thing, coming out from AFC, you can either be Jared Cannonier, fight at a bunch of different weight classes, be amazing. I know he lost to Whitaker, but Whitaker's one of the better fighters in the UFC.
Or Justin Buchholz.
Or it could be Justin Buchholz, Gina Mazzani, we could throw her in there. There's just such a mixed bag coming from that promotion that it really is hard to kind of place their ceiling in. Here's the honest truth. You can say that about any organization outside the UFC. But here's the thing. In this fight, I don't think Medic is going to face any of those issues that we think might be there in the future. I haven't seen him fight that upper echelon wrestler at 155. He's going to have to do that at some point. This is just a great kind of introduction to the UFC audience. And I know I said it on the first video how, these young fighters, they realize that there is more pressure. For Medic, I think the pressure's there, but the fact that he is fighting someone who stylistically will be in front of him, not to be hit because he can keep the fight at such a range with his kicks that he won't always be so hittable. But if you're Medic, constant pressure will win you this fight eventually. You're not going to get to him after that first punch. You might not hit him on the second punch, but as long as you throw in combination and really make sure that you are dedicated to that third, fourth, fifth strike in your combination, you will eventually get to Alon Cruz. But the last thing on Medic, I don't know if he's going to be in the top 15. I don't know if he's going to be at lightweight for the rest of his career, because you had mentioned it. He's fought from middleweight down. Alon Cruz is the opposite. He's meeting him at lightweight from featherweight. So I'm not, again, these are two of the bigger guys in the division, although Cruz is moving up, but it will be interesting just to see the physicality of these two and how it does match up.
All right, so the crazy thing about Medic, this guy is still at King's MMA, and from his Instagram, I gained intel on other fighters that were on this card because he's training with the likes of, the Marvin Vittoris, Rafael Rafael Cordero, but also Nasrat Haqparast, who's on this card. You absolutely love to see it. Matt, I know you really like that debut out of Medic. What did you see from him that we kind of learned or gained a little bit of perspective on?
Well, this is our big issue with Medic coming into the UFC. It's, yes, the finishes are great, it's all fantastic, but the level of competition really does matter. And maybe Alon Cruz isn't at the top of the list for, the hardest UFC debuts ever, but still, you have to beat whoever's in front of you. Uros Medic did that. He lands flying knees, he lands spinning elbows, he is an offensive dynamo, and that's really how you have to describe Uros Medic's game. He's really unique because he is one of the taller and rangier guys for this division, but you can't really get away with saying that about either guy because both of these guys normally have that luxury of being the taller guy in there, being the longer guy in there, so it will be really interesting to see how these guys match up physically because Jalin Turner has a lot of tools that I really like on the outside. He's got a great teep kick to that front leg, it's very Neil Magny-esque. He's got a good jab, he's got a good right hand, but my issue with Jalin Turner has always been on the mid-range and those guys who can get on the inside of his reach. Matt Frevola isn't a great striker by any means, but what he was able to do was fade on the outside, get on the inside, and use his wrestling to then take advantage of some of those, I guess, defensive shortcomings on the inside that Jalin Turner has. I'm really interested to see how Uros Medic attacks this fight because if he does stay on the outside with his range, then these guys could both just be trading jabs one for one the whole entire fight until someone really does decide to take that first step forward and start to put a combination together. With Jalin Turner, I think he's the more well-rounded out of these two. We have seen a little bit of his wrestling. We've seen their ground game a little bit more than what we've seen out of Medic. But my big concern out of Jalin Turner is how does he respond to the pressure of Medic in this fight? Because if he is just backing up in a straight line like he has had the susceptibility of doing, then if Medic just puts together 2 or 3 punches, I think he will land a big power shot at some point. But if Jalin Turner can say, okay, I'm going to stand guard here, I'm going to use my jab, and I'm going to be the one walking forward, it'll be interesting because with Medic, he's one of those 50-50 fighters. If he does respond to volume or if he does respond to pressure with more activity, then I think he'll be in great shape throughout this fight. But if he is one of those fighters like even Yuri Prochazka I'll throw in there where you're almost so erratic that when guys are really technical they can start to get to you, then I think Jalin Turner actually has a way to win this fight.
When I went back and watched tape on both of these guys, I think you're right. I mean, for Uros Medic, he's probably going to be the guy out of these two that will initiate his wrestling. With Jalin Turner, the one other kick that he really does throw well, and they always make a point of saying it on the commentary, so you're probably not hearing anything new, but it's the fact that he doesn't necessarily throw a teep kick to the body. It's more of a prodding front kick. It does have quite a bit of force behind it. I really do like that. Again, for Jalin Turner, he's one of those pop. He goes jab and then throws the cross, and if there's a lot of power on it, you saw it have concussive type of effect to Brock Weaver when he was able to get the win there. And then again, the win before that, Joshua Culibao, yes, that was on short notice. Yes, that was weird in terms of what they ended up weighing going into the fight. However, that seems to age like fine wine with the way that Joshua Culibao's looked in the UFC. And I remember previewing that fight going, man, I don't even know what to tell you about Culibao because it wasn't that impressive coming into the UFC. He didn't really seem to have all those tools, especially moving up a weight class. But at 145, he's looked good. So, again, it continues to look better. Similar to when Turner comes in, fights at 170 against Luque. What do you really learn out of that? Not a lot. So I absolutely do love this fight because it could be one way, it could be the other way. And out of this, we're going to learn a lot about these two guys that I still do. Even with Turner having 15 pro fights, I still would say a prospect. I need to see a little bit more out of these guys. The odds for this fight, Medic opened the favorite at a minus 185. He's now minus 123 over on best fight odds. For Jalin Turner, opened the underdog at plus 160. He's roughly around a plus 101 right now. We haven't seen the Tapology votes. I'm really eager to see them. Wow, 960 total votes, 84% Medic, 78% by knockout for the 16% that have Turner, 44% by knockout, 40% by decision. Again, stylistically, I absolutely love what both of these guys do, and I think they definitely pose a problem for a lot of the guys in this division. Also interesting to note, Turner's the younger fighter here, too. Who would have thought that?
Exactly. It is really wild. But these are two of the more exciting prospects in this division because I would also consider Jalin Turner a prospect. You can't go from fighting Vicente Luque at 170 pounds to then just being like, oh, we're going to keep you in the deep end of the pool. Like, these are the fights that Jalin Turner should be having.
Tyrion Ware had that experience.
Yeah, Tyrion Ware fought 4 killers, and they were like, bye, Tyrion. It's like, okay, that wasn't very fair. Here's the problem that I do have with Jalin Turner. If Medic does get on the inside of his punching range, Jalin Turner doesn't really have the wrestling offensive to then decide, okay, I'm going to decide to take you down after we clinch up. And I do worry about Turner's punching power compared to Uros Medic's, because Medic is by far the more powerful guy out of these two, I would say. I think he could run into a shot by Jalin Turner, but this is the real key. If Medic is jumping into the pocket, I think Turner can catch him with a counter shot and probably hurt him. If Medic is feinting his way into the pocket and then answering with combinations, I think he has a good chance of catching Jalin Turner with a power shot. And I do think I'm going to slightly favor Uros Medic in this one. I do like his feints from the outside, not by the traditional sense of like an Israel Adesanya, where it's like you actually see like him twitching his hips and stuff, making his opponent think. What Medic does do is he has great movement on the outside, and I do feel like that could stifle Jalin Turner on those in-betweens. I do think Turner can pick up minutes, I guess, or even rounds in this fight, but I do think at a certain point Medic is going to find his way on the inside and land a big shot.
I think for Turner, being that prospect, getting better every day with, and now I knew I would make the mistake, so Carlson, Gracie, Riverside, because I had it written down, but really working your ground game there with the wrestling offensive that we've seen from Medic, and you talk about a guy that's fought in all different weight classes that we had in the rookie review. It's kind of crazy that he started in and around middleweight, now he's down here at lightweight and fitting in perfectly. Again, another one of the bigger guys you're going to find in the lower weight classes, but for Turner at Gracie, but as well at Ruka Sport, and I know that people didn't love his last performance. He's got a big fight coming up, but Rafa Garcia, a guy that can really make it tough. He's going to grab the back of your head. He's going to throw those uppercuts nice and in tight, but get you ready for a fight like this. If they even cross pass at Ruka Sport, I think there's a lot of things to like out of Turner's game, especially from the outside too. Now, if he's like the Luke Rockhold, I'm just going to lean back and leave my chin out there, that's an issue, because Medic is one of those guys that can crash forward, throw those looping hooks to try and really set up his wrestling game. I think Medic can have a lot of success there, but I do like Turner's well-roundedness. I like that one too. I like those prodding kicks, whether it's to the leg, whether it's a sneaky little oblique kick, or that prodding front kick to the stomach. I like a lot of things out of Turner's game. So as an underdog, I can see value, but Medic, man, this guy is a full head of steam, and if he wins, man, strap a rocket ship to his back, because again, that Joe Rogan podcast by day, all night, and I know I butchered that. We're going to have to get it right before the Nick Diaz fight, but Medic already has that. Now you're on another pay-per-view with Rogan. That could be a great opportunity.
Not to bring up Vicente Luque's name again, but this feels like the fight where Uros Medic can go from either being like a Nico Price type, where you can have a lot of fun fights, but you might win one and lose one, or if he goes out there, looks really technical, and can get a finish win, then that Vicente Luque is a similar comp of a type of fighter that Medic could become.
Absolutely love this fight. We're split on the picks, so you know it's going to be a good one. Matt has Medic. I have Jalin Turner. Can't wait for this fight card. It should be a great one. 5-round fights. There are 3 of them up at the top. So keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, and as we always say, let's get into it.